End. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Maui's free speech station. KAKU 88.5 FM, Kahului, Maui. The voice of Maui.
Good morning. This is Jason Schwartz, and you're in the neutral zone. We're happy to have you here. We got a great guest.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his face. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. But what puzzling you is the nature of my game.
Wow, that was my editing skills being tested here. All right, we're set now. Good morning. It is early January, I think January 7th, 2019. And my guest today is someone that our local Maui audience knows well. That's Kelly King, who is the current chairman of the Maui County Council. This is only a few days old, and I spoke to her office this morning, and she's busy and running, stopping by the office and coming here. I told her that told them the first few minutes I'm busy saying hello to you. This year, we're going to be doing television as well as radio, and you'll be seeing some of our radio shows that are on Facebook Live, even now, and on YouTube, on KAKU, Maui Community Media Television, or I call it television. And we've been talking about issues, and we're very positive about the future. We're very positive about the attitude of our guest here, Kelly King, our chairman, and the attitude that the council seems to have that is pervasive and thinking more holistic than before by some people's view. Some people are thinking that it's going to be combative in different ways. I don't think that's what is in the cards. I think we're going to make progress in great ways to making Maui more no ka'oi. You know, I don't really think bashing is helpful, but I do think we're in a new age. Just to know that the trash waste facility is going to be open here on Sundays is a big plus. I hope we don't have a government shutdown like Washington is doing right now. Gosh, we're not. But we have new things happening. There have been a few things that we're going to talk with Kelly King about, you know, and we also are going to be talking about changes that have happened and how they're going to be impacting the council and procedures and availability to you, the public, to be able to testify about things and have all the documents available to know what's coming up before it's in front of us, and see a lot more transparency, things that I think that the older the council that was here before the beginning of the year, I think they did what they did. And I'm just hoping that it's better and that the public receives it better and it's more effective at making things better around here instead of getting divisive and fighting. And money shouldn't be our driver. Sadly, money is right there, plain and center, in everyone's life here on Maui. The homelessness problem is, I think, epidemic. I think if you're going to declare a state of emergency, it should be here in Maui County, where we can take care of the homeless. We'll see what our new mayor, Victorino, has immediately in store. I know I spoke a little with Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. It's going to be his pet project to be effective. And, the old Lieutenant Governor, I can't help but see that Shan Tsutsui is going to be instrumental with this new land, 40,000 acres that was just purchased. So in agriculture, we have things to... Can you imagine you're a company and you have all this land and all these people that need food desperately to be self-sustainable, and you buy that land and you put in non-GMO food and you buy what's needed, and whatever isn't needed here locally you export? What a fantastic business. So we hope to even make their yield better. Wait till we start talking about technologies and things. Any second, our councilwoman Kelly King, someone pointed out, and I thought it was funny, that it takes a queen to take the king role and the high podium and put herself down on the same level as the people there on council. I don't know if any people, they're just waiting outside, I can hear. I don't know if many people have identified what they want their roles to be with this new council here. I know that council is there to create rules and laws and move things, but I really am a strong proponent for private sector working together in unique ways to be able to fund some of these projects, because the money and profits that come from it are only part of the benefit when you live here, because local businesses can live in the paradise that they have the resources to support, to help those that may not, and make this whole island better and bring up quality of jobs and income. It's nice to hear there's going to be 1,000 jobs. We'll see what kind of jobs they are, but whatever kind of jobs, if people can live and be happy here on Maui, that would be wonderful. But we need a lot of things. So again, I don't want to get ahead of myself with my guest here coming on in a moment. Oh, there she is. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Year of the Wahine. You're on, visual as well as sound. This is Facebook Live, and there's your camera. Okay. And there's my camera. But welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Who's going to help our feedback? We get the microphone down. Let me see where we are. Is someone coming in to help me? I bet. There we go. We should be. They'll come in if they need to adjust.
Okay. Well, I wasn't planning on having a visual, but it's okay.
Okay. Well, you'll look fine.
Oh, thank you. I didn't dress for it.
Congratulations on your, I guess you'd say, in the time that I know you, I remember way back when you were running for school board, and I thought, who's this lady? Oh, biodiesel, that's aligned with me, and that was years ago.
Yeah, I think back then, actually, we hadn't started the biodiesel project yet. It started probably halfway through my term on the State Board of Education. But I was running around building playgrounds on the island. I was involved in PTA. My kids were both in public school. And so that's where that came from.
Well, with me, as I get older, I compress time. To me, that was way back, and way back, I'm going to get closer to the mic, and way back kind of gets compressed together, so that time thing wasn't right. But you've been an advocate of progressive, renewable energy technologies and things that are good for our world and children and playgrounds and many things. And I think you graduated, your humility, Each time the vote happens, it's like a shock to you that you are victorious in the way and so comfortable. Your level of support, I believe, is obviously very wide. You were able to garner support from 6 of the, people and more as the vote came in. But I am very happy to say, I sit here with someone that I feel is, you took yourself off the pedestal, the kingship, and you basically have just shown this, you say year of the Wahine, and Yeah, I am not a Wahine, but I must tell you, it feels very, very comfortable. I to know that you're at the helm. How does it feel?
Thank
Is
you.
it very different in your role?
Well, it's a burden for sure. It's a greater burden because now it's about also shepherding the council into what I see as an era of more transparency, being more service oriented. One of my first goals is to start working on getting the chamber redesigned so that the council is facing the public. And I've been talking about that on the campaign trail.
Yes.
I actually, proposed that last year during the budget session, but did not get enough votes for it. So I think the new council, the majority of the folks on the new council support this, and I think we have a supermajority that supports this. And we can do it in a way that's, we need to make the chambers more welcoming. I think I know you've come and testified, Jason, and
I hear all the time about remote locations.
Right, we're going to be
and
working on
ways to use Skype and Zoom and.
Right, we
maybe-
want. I think there's a balance that has to be reached because a lot of people don't understand why they can't just call from their house. Well, it has to be. You have to sign in, and you have to be at a district office. We have to have several satellite offices because otherwise people are just calling in willy-nilly, and we don't know who's waiting in the
Like
wings.
here,
So.
873-3435.
Right.
They can call Willie and Nilly.
Right.
Right. But yeah,
So-
I understand.
So there are those things. I do want to try to encourage more public hearings at night. But what happens with each of those public hearings is you've got now overtime because you've got to have departmental staff there, and you've got to have you folks from KAKU there, and so the expense of it is not just it's not easy to do. But I think we need to start experimenting with that.
It's funny when you said me folks at Akaku. Do you know that I've never worked for Akaku? And people that think I own the station, I tell them it's a public access station. I've been doing all these shows and interviews and stuff for so many years, but this has been a wonderful forum. I don't know if I've sat and talked to you, but I'm going to just put a plug for. I go to Maui Community now, Maui College, and they have been a great resource of people. And yet when they are done, they don't know where to go and what to do. Well, in creative media, there's this public access television, which they both get some funding from the same source, but they've been sort of polarized. They're not really working together as effectively as they might.
Right. We really need that better collaboration.
So that's where I'm aiming.
Right.
And I'm hoping to be able to, I'm going to school, learning, meeting some of these interns, making them apprentices here to be able to then create production studio, and obviously create an industry, clean, nice, good industry. I bet that's
what's interesting is years ago when I was a young mother and my children were very small and I was getting involved in the school system, I actually went to a meeting at the college. It was in that basement room where they have all that technology. And they had, wasn't called Skype back then, but they had televised and remote hearings. So I went to testify in front of the Board of Education back in the 90s, early 90s, and we're still not doing that at the County Council, where we're allowing people to have a visual of the council and us have a visual of them. And because it does make a difference. I think it makes a difference seeing somebody's body language, looking them in the eye, even if it's remotely, versus having a piece of paper. And I always tell people this, it's much more effective if you can be there in person, even in a remote district where we can hear your voice and it's a person behind it, not just a printed piece of paper. But I found that to be true when I was on the Board of Education as well. People came out and testified in person, had a bigger impact on the board than getting a piece of paper with that same testimony written on it. And back then I was dealing with a board, I was the only Maui person, so you've got 12 people from, most of the 10 from Oahu. So you really have to look people in the eye and tell them what your issue is.
And County Council, you're even more crazy. Like you said, it gets more and more responsibility and more consuming.
Right.
And let me ask, because it came when the Maui News, thank you, put a press release that we were going to be on. So I got people contact me with some questions, and I thought they were interesting. You know all these people. Nick Drance called, and I was just thinking, he was really looking to see after the election, with this new air that we have of positivity, what and which direction. He was kind of giving you a platform to restate what I think is really what we all envision of you, a new change. What those kind of changes will mean to our county. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I do. And actually, we have a shared vision, shared goals, core principles that have been put into our county code. It's called the Maui County General Plan, the countywide policy plan, which, I brought it with me. And I've been really impressed with this plan. I've been, I refer to it when I vote on the council. When I decided to run almost 3 years ago for the first term on the council, one of my first ideas was, why don't we have a shared vision? That's the first thing we need to start with. And when I started looking into doing my research about county council issues, I realized we do have one. We've had one since 2010. Why don't people know about this? So I started. Is
it available online?
It's available online.
Okay.
You can. Okay. I don't know if it costs to get the printed copy.
Countywide.
It's well, this is the countywide policy plan, part of the Maui County General Plan.
Okay.
And in it describes our objectives, our aspirations. I've never seen the county council formulate around those goals and objectives. So that's one of the first things that I brought to the council as chair is I actually proposed a set of committees that are formulated around these goals. And it's a hard thing for some of the old school people to wrap their heads around, like why is the committee that handles human concerns, the nonprofit issues and the different organizations that we support, as well as Parks and Rec, why is it called Healthy Families and Communities? And I've I had someone say, well, that's aspirational. I said, exactly, it's aspirational. We should be aspiring to reach these goals and not just formulating our actions in our committees around supporting the departments. That's how you get business as usual. And a lot of the reason why there has been a change voted in is because people want to see action. They want to see things start happening around these goals and the vision. So, I was pretty open with this plan. I started sharing it. I worked with a gentleman who used to work on the Office of Council Services, who is now back with us, Dave Rotz. A whole lot of people in the community know and respect. He's,
I know him.
He's
like
a fantastic. I don't want to say addition, because he was in Office of Council Services before I came in, and then they let him go for 2 years. So the planning department got to have him for 2 years. But, people like that who have been involved in the GPAC, in the general plan, and people in the community like Dick Mayer and Lucian Dene, and I shared
input.
Yeah, I shared this the framework for this with anybody who asked, and people like Dick Mayer took it to his community association, shared it, and they gave input. I took it to my Kihei Community Association, they gave input. And I took it to the Alliance for Community Associations. So this was shared broadly, and people were able to give input, valuable input. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about the original objectives in the community plan, it goes A through K, but there's no objective specifically for agriculture, for sustainable agriculture. And I suspect that was because when they wrote this plan, it was just assumed we were always going to have pineapple and sugarcane. Nothing. It was far enough back that nobody had foreseen what was going to happen, which is, the demise of sugarcane, the almost demise of pineapple before the folks country bought the Maui Gold label. And the other thing that's missing from here that we did not foresee back then is climate change and sea level rise. Yeah. And so those two things, I'm going to put a proposal to add those to the objectives, because certainly we want to see diversified, sustainable agriculture, and we need climate change solutions. We need an adaptation plan for sea level rise. We need to start now. I just was reading through a report that came from the federal government, not the federal government administration, but national scientists, where they're saying basically we have 12 years to get this right, to turn things around.
Wow.
That's scary. That's very impactful.
Wow.
I really didn't want to put it on my Facebook page when I started looking at this report, because it's scary. You know, we can't just put up headlines without explaining it to people. So we need to get involved in this.
That's right.
So those are two big issues. But just the very format of being able to name our committees after these goals, and understand that the council's job is to set policy and make sure there are goals towards those policies, and then fund the actions that need to get us to those goals. Not just to turn around and say, well, you know, the planning department has been getting X amount of dollars every year, I guess we just give them the same with an increase. I really want to see, as the chair, when we go through the budget session, first of all, I want to see a new process, because this process of having meetings till midnight does not respect the public input. But I want to see a process where the departments do strategic planning. They share their goals and how they're relevant to our community plan, and then they show us what objectives they're going to do and the tasks that are required to meet those goals, and how many people, and what's the what equipment do you need?
You want to know their plan.
Yeah, what's your plan? And then we'll fund that plan, and then we'll keep progress on that plan. And one of the things that I've been doing strategic planning for 15 years with my company, my husband and I do. And one of the things that I think it scares people in government about setting high goals is, if they can't make them, are they going to get shot down? Are they going to get criticized? And I would tell you, I think every nonprofit knows this. I think every business knows this. Certainly every corporation knows this. You set high goals, you don't always reach them. But that the old saying of shoot the moon, because maybe you'll get halfway there.
Right.
That's what we want to strive for. We want to strive for progress, not just doing the same as we did last year. And so, I've been trying to assure people who work in our county government, you're not going to, if you set high goals, that's a very noble thing. Just because you don't reach those high goals, there's always things that happen that get in the way. It's like trying to get to Lahaina. I'm leaving myself an hour, but I didn't realize there was going to be all this traffic, or a fire happens or something like that. So we have those kinds of things happen in government, in business. There's reasons why, usually, if you're trying really hard and you're following a process, why you're probably not meeting the high goals you set. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't set them and strive for the best. We're not going to, when I was in the school system, there was a huge discussion about the federal funds that were coming in, and we were trying to create a state program that was based on merit. So we were looking at schools and we were looking at grades, and I went, wait a minute, if you can't just look at the schools that are, where the majority of kids are getting A's and B's, because they may have started that way. They may have started from that baseline. You got to look at a baseline, and some of the areas that are more challenged, where there's more at-risk kids and the families are dealing with other, lower incomes or social issues, things like that, you have to look at the progress. So you set a baseline, you figure out where you're at, and you look at the progress that you make, not the end goal necessarily. So I think people want to try to do something. People want to be inspired. They want to work towards that
It's
goal.
hard for me to imagine, maybe, that kind of thing wasn't happening before. I mean, at the council. How was it being run before? Like a business, cut and dry, like a hotel?
Well, when I came on to my
profit?
first year in the council, when we went through the budget session, when we looked through the budget document, the budget details, I was asking a lot of questions from each department on their performance measures, because to me they weren't true performance measures. They were just basically, they weren't goals. They were setting a benchmark of where they thought they could be. And sometimes it was lower than the year we were in. And I said, why would you aspire to do less? Well, that's what we think we can do. And so there's sort of an attitude, I think, in our county government that they want to set a low bar so that they can reach it, because they get criticized if they don't reach that bar. And that's wrong. We want to set high goals, and then if we can get further along than we were this year, we should be happy with that. We should understand the reasons, the things that are keeping you from actually reaching the goal. If you reach the goal, we should be giving, wonderful accolades. But I was actually told by our former managing director and our many people in the departments, you're the first council member that's actually questioned those performance measures. And even though they felt like they were kind of on the hot seat, because I look at that and I go, this is not really a bona fide strategic goal. I think they want to do that. They want to aspire to. I mean, everybody who works in this county works hard for the county. They want to see change.
They
want to be part of that change, and they want to serve.
Yeah.
They just are. They're in a position where they're getting different guidance every 4 years, and sometimes from the council every 2 years. And so they, what happens in 2 years when a different council comes in? There's a different direction. So I get that. That's a symptom of our county government. And that's another thing I think I would like to see the county council have 4-year terms and have staggered terms, so that every election maybe you're electing half of the council.
So you have experience that carries through to the next group.
Right, and then if you set goals at least you can set goals for 4 years or 8 years, and businesses can do that because they're hoping they're going to be in business for 5 to 10 years, but the government tends to look short term, and what can I get done during my term so I can get reelected, or so I can show that I've done something. So I'm from a different mindset. I'm kind of looking a little bit farther along, not too far. I mean, if you set goals, I know one thing that was said in the whole Dave Taylor fiasco about letting him go was he's not planning for long enough. We need to plan for 50 or 100 years. Well, that's not practical. Technology changes so fast. So our goals, the company that my husband and I run is a renewable energy technology company. So you can't set goals for 20 years because in 5 years the technology is going to be all different, and that's what happens throughout our different departments. You might have a different mindset, that gets voted into office. So, I believe we should be doing 5 to 10 year goal setting in the county minimum. But maximum, we should be looking at probably 10 to 15 years because of, and we're going to have in 10 years, our geographic landscape is going to look very different.
Dramatically different.
Whenever I drive to Wailuku, I go across North Kihei Road, and I just think in 10 years, this road is going to it's already getting covered with water. Well, maybe 5 years.
Why are they building that new thing right there on where the Maui Lu was? I mean, is that going to be like, the ocean's going to be their front door? It
is going to be their front door. That's been an ongoing project for, I want to say, 10 to 15 years.
Forever.
And at one point, I think some of us in Kihei just thought, well, they gave up on it because they realized they're too close to the ocean. But then we just, out of the blue,
I don't get it. Unless, I don't know what they're thinking.
There are permits that are out there that are probably going to be, some of them will be followed up on, and they won't, they'll continue the construction, and it won't make sense. I don't think we should be giving any new permits within the shoreline area, for especially places like Kihei, because I live at 25-foot elevation up off of Ohukai up from South Kihei Road, and I'm looking at the houses on South Kihei Road are probably going to be my reef at my door someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to start thinking probably beyond the 3-foot sea level rise that we're being told in the report. And I'm working with some folks on the national level that advise the Navy, the U.S. Navy, that work with the Pentagon, that have some who are telling me that 3 feet is conservative. You need to look 6 to 15 feet.
Let me take a quick break. I'm here with Kelly King on KAKU, the Neutral Zone. We're going to take a sponsorship donator. I don't know, we can't call it commercial break, can we? But anyway, we're going to play some stuff. Thank you, Nokoi Motors, for being our sponsor here. And we'll come back and continue our conversation. So hang on just a moment. The Neutral Zone, with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to thank Nokoi Motors, Maui Car Rentals, for their support. Located at 181 Dairy Road across from the fire station in Kaului, they've served the Maui community for more than 30 years with services in used cars and automobile rentals. Find them online at mauicarrentals.net or at 877-3300. The Neutral Zone is heard Mondays live at 11 a.m. and again on Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KAKU 88.5 FM.
Hawaii Youth Service Directory is online at 808youth.com. We envision a Hawaii where all youth are connected to the support they need to walk a pono path towards health, happiness, and abundance. 808youth.com is a free, easy-to-use online directory funded by the Office of Youth Services. If you're looking for a family-friendly event, check out our events calendar. And connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hawaii Youth Services Directory is online at 808youth.com. We envision a Hawaii where all youth are connected to the support they need to walk a pono path towards health, happiness, and abundance. 808youth.com is a free, easy-to-use online directory funded by the Office of Youth Services. If you're looking for a family-friendly event, check out our events calendar. And connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Preparing for death can change your life. I'm Bodie B. Join me on Death Tracks, the show about wholehearted and sacred living and dying. We will follow tracks, make tracks, and play musical tracks as we explore aging, dying, and death. We'll have interviews and time for call-ins from our listeners. Join the conversation every Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. here on 88.5 FM, KAKU, the voice of Maui.
The Maui Youth Now Show, focusing on youth culture today. This weekly half-hour show is produced by and created for youth, taking the pulse of youth culture from an island perspective. Watch local news, current events, fun challenges, trending videos, game reviews, and learn about other youth in your community. New episodes air on Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. on KAKU-88.5 or catch us on Vimeo.
Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz, host of The Neutral Zone. KAKU is a listener-supported station. This means that all of the great programs you hear, like mine, are sponsored by you as well as our underwriters. If you would like to help keep the voice of Maui talking loud and clear, go to kakufm.org/donate today and give. And don't miss The Neutral Zone Mondays at 11 a.m. on 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. We are back. I'm here with Kelly King. This is Jason Schwartz. January 7th, 2019. You know, there was more questions that came in, Kelly. I hope that you're open to it. I'm sure you are. You mentioned, I guess I can be heard, David Ratz. He's a terrific guy. And now it was voted, and now that was where the questions came from. I don't want to sandwich them too close together, but they're all around the fact that Corporation Council has been, you know, the mayor's thing, and there are all kinds of issues that they've supported, and even though they know they're wrong, they've got to stand up for things. And the council services felt they needed their own representation. I'm wondering what you, and again, I hope I'm not paraphrasing, it came from Sam Small, so I'm sure he'll ask you some more. But what do you see in the dynamic between different opinions and how his input relates to the other corporate council, etc.?
So by his input, you're talking about
how do you intend to use him, and how will that?
Oh, for Dave.
David Rapp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to clarify that the corporate council is supposed to be representing the mayor's office and the county council.
Sure.
So they get appointed and approved by the mayor, approved by the county council, but the only one who could fire them is the mayor. And so what ends up happening, you know, from my perspective as a constituent and as a council member last year, they really end up working for the mayor. I mean, you end up working for the person who could fire you if you don't do a good job. The charter amendment that passed, not this last election, but 2 years, it passed the year that I got elected the first time, was supposed to allow county council members to a process to seek our own counsel if we did not agree with the opinions of Corp Counsel. And we have some very good attorneys in Office of Counsel Services. I mean, I think there's nobody better than Dave Ratz, actually, because he's not just as an attorney, but so ethical. You know, he will not do anything that's not ethical. It doesn't care who you are, or, you know, how much power you have over him. And I spent the last 2 years, every few months, I'd ask our head of our supervising attorney, and I think I probably asked our leadership on the council a couple of times, what's the process? When are we going to be able to access our legal counsel? if we choose to. Well, that hasn't been written yet. And for 2 years, that's all I heard. We have to write the rules, and we don't have any rules. So that's going to be one of my first goals, is to work that process out, so that if we get an opinion, or if Corp Counsel takes too long, we can go to our own counsel at Office of Counsel Services. You can go outside. You can seek outside counsel if it takes 6 votes of the council to approve that, because that costs money, obviously. But we have some very good attorneys on staff, really impressive people who think outside the box. I mean, one of the problems I had in the beginning of my term, and actually, I would say pretty much throughout the two years, it's every time I wanted to do something different that was outside the box or that they hadn't done before, it was a real challenge. And that's the first thing I heard was, well, we don't do things like that. And I'd say, why? To me, and I realized after the first couple of times I tried to do something different, like the process of testimony. I wanted to be able to have the department, or if there was an outside agency, do a presentation and then take testimony. Because we always take the testimony in the beginning of the meetings, and sometimes people want to listen to what's going on, and then they'll come in and go, oh, I didn't realize you were doing this. I was going to testify on this, but maybe I'll testify on that instead. But, I mean, legally you can't deliberate. So you can have a presentation. You can't have counsel deliberate before testimony, but you can certainly have a presentation like I did on climate change, and then ask if anybody wants to testify after. And I usually give the option of before or after. If someone wants to testify in the morning and then take off and go on with their day, that we should make it as convenient as possible. But there are people that will say, I'd like to see what the presentation is first, like where you try to figure out where you're headed before I testify. And when the first time I posed that to Counsel Services, I got a huge pushback. And so I met with my staff. Everyone gets an attorney and a secretary assigned to you. And I said, when I propose to do something different, you never ask me why I want to do it. The first thing is like, oh no, we don't do things that way. And I said, maybe if you knew why, the reasons why, then you would look for a way to help me get it done. And these 2 women, they were so great, because one of them just said, you're right, we never ask you that. We should be talking about why you want to do that. I said, I'm not really here to make your life harder. I'm not trying to challenge you, your system. I'm trying to look for ways that we can make it easier for the public and we can honor the testifiers. And so let's work from that aspect of why this is a good thing, and maybe you'll give me a reason why it's not. But we need to talk about why it's a good thing, and okay, if it's a good thing, let's look for a way to get it done.
And I hope that's the kind of thing, I see that as what you hope that the council people themselves do to the public, of why they're voting the way they are.
Right.
So that there's more transparency, maybe public transparency like that will get different kinds of decisions and votes, and I hope active interplay between the community and the council people to help give them
right, absolutely. And I think there's increase already in the first week or the past month in the first week.
Yes.
Been greater access and interaction between council members and our Office of Counsel Services, because when I came on 2 years ago, I didn't really know who these people were, and I hadn't spent a lot of time with them. And so we've had a meet and greet, we've had an orientation, and the council members feel free to come down to the 7th floor and talk to people. There is literally, from what I felt the last 2 years, just in the last week, I walk around, because the council chair's office is on the 7th floor, and it just feels joyful. It feels like everybody's excited to move forward and happy, and part of it was the step increases that they had been waiting for since some of them since 2012. But there's an attitude of can do and an attitude of what can we do for you.
Fantastic.
And I didn't feel that way, honestly, the first year of my first term. So I'm excited, and it's part of also. I have a background in business, and I know the importance of HR standards and human resource standards, and how important it is to make a happy, healthy workplace, safe workplace, in order for people to be productive.
Well, thank you for all that. I appreciate it. I'm going to take a look at these notes and ask a couple of questions, but I want to make sure I don't forget the homelessness issue. I don't know how you came from up in Wailuku here, but along Kamehameha Avenue between Foodland there and Safeway. It's just getting crazy. Are we at a point where emergency status can do something where there can be money in place?
Well, I hope so. I mean, because I wasn't chair or vice chair of that committee in the last 2 years, but I took the issue to my community, because in South Maui, there are no homeless resource facilities that exist there, that any of us know. But there are things that happen. I mean, certainly St. Teresa's and the Hale-Kaukau, there are those kinds of nonprofit efforts. But as far as the Kahaleakeola, I started working with Monique Yamashita and put together a couple of meetings my first year in South Maui so we could have a community discussion about that. Because the first thing, if you want to change a community, the first thing you have to do is get people on board with the notion that this is our community, this is our problem. It's not their problem, it's not my neighbor's problem. If someone shows up at my back door, I'm not going to just call the police and ask them to move them somewhere else. Let's get to the root of the problem and find out why there are no resources. Can we create some resources? Can we look at folks compassionately as part of our community instead of stepping over them to get to the store? And it was the first meeting we had about 5 homeless people there, either who were either homeless, there were a couple people who had been homeless and came out. And the discussion that we had, were probably 40 people that were there. The discussion my main goal of that first meeting was to get the community to start saying, what can we do, instead of what can you do, or what can this
organization. To me, that's the biggie. I mean, I want my government to support what I do. I would think that we, as a community of people, can solve the problems, and the government says, oh, you're doing that? Good idea. Let us help. Isn't that better than saying to you, please handle this homeless problem?
So what we did was we basically threw ideas up on a wall, and the second meeting we had was to take those ideas and see which of those were long-term and which would involve funding, which would involve county support, and which ones were volunteer efforts that we can start doing right now. And so there's a network right now. It's called a virtual home resource network or something, where folks are calling each other, or the homeless folks can call them. I mean, some people are already doing this, taking them to the laundromat, or taking them to the grocery store or the post office, or doing their laundry, helping them. One of the fellows who was in both those first 2 meetings, and we created a volunteer working group out of these meetings. He has a business, lives near some homeless people, and he allows them to store their stuff in his garage, and some of them sleep on his couch sometimes. So there's a lot of compassion. People are a little bit impatient because they want stuff to happen right now, which I've always found impatience is good, because that forces action. So where we're at right now, we're formulating a plan to do like a tiny home type of village, where we could give people immediate, very, very low rental
what
places
about
to live.
For example, we have refugees, we put them in tents, and we create different programs and bathrooms. Well,
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it in a more respectful way to the community, because that's one of the things that came out of those meetings. We don't want a tent city like they have all over Oahu. This is Maui. We want to do it differently. We want to do it. So that's one track of, there's people working on that, and some of them are developers. And there's another track, another group, a volunteer group that came out of these meetings are working on a mobile hygiene unit. So we've got the bulk of that funded. I had an excellent conversation with Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. He's going to help us fund that program out of his nonprofit. And then we'll have a vehicle that can go from place to place in Kihei, offer services, showers, private bathrooms, plug in your cell phone. For some reason, every homeless person has a cell phone, but those
needs to.
Bringing people out of the shadows and forming those relationships so we can get services to them and we can understand the reasons for there's so many different reasons for homelessness.
I was just going to say, you say homeless, and some people have 2 jobs and they're homeless.
Yeah, and so and some people are looking for a job. They came here with a job and they lost their job, and so they lost their home. So there's mental health issues, there's drug issues, and they're different. And there are services for these problems, but we have to find the people, and we have to develop relationships of trust before homeless folks will actually access these services. Out of those 2 meetings that we had publicly, we actually were able to house 2 people because we were able to identify them, and they had jobs. So part of the issue is, and then we also have a hub. If we can get this mobile hygiene unit, and we'll let people know where it's going to be when. We'll have a site for getting donations of clothing and toiletries and food, and which we don't have right now other than the churches, and it's not widely known where to drop off clothing if you want clothing to get to the homeless, or who's going to deliver it. So pockets of there's a group called Kihei Delta, which had started working on some of these homeless issues, and they actually buy and distribute bus passes to homeless people. So there's pockets of all these, and if we can consolidate into, what do you need? How can we help you, make those distributions easier, or, just kind of solidify around a site, or even if it's a moving site. And Kahale Akeola Monique Yamashita has been fantastic about working with us on this. Really excited to get the community involved.
Where are they based?
Kahale Akeola has homeless facilities in Wailuku and in West Maui, where they actually have shelters and they actually have rentals, but nothing in South Maui.
Is this the thing with Maud Cummings?
No. This is basically what we call the homeless shelter. It's near the prison in Wailuku.
The one right next to the prison.
And there's a site up in West Maui, but nothing in South Maui.
What do we do about the tremendous, I want to say that I know women who have told me they don't go to these things because they feel incredibly unsafe and not able to deal with it, and the stigmas that go in there, it's just like catcalls, and I don't know why to say that there isn't more facilities that have a little bit more feel safe, or a parking lot that's lit. You can park your car at night and say you can stay here. Things are crazy. A lot of the homeless things could be, I think, made by someone leaving their lights on and having a security person watch the perimeter. There's so much space
and really the security person is the key, because I tried to, in my first year, I tried to create, and I was going to propose a county legislation that would follow the state legislation. Makes it illegal for folks to sleep in their cars on public property overnight. But it also allows counties to make their own ordinances about that. So I was looking into finding a site where we could do this, like the new park site, which wasn't open yet, where the gym is going to be in Kihei. Mm-hmm. And it looked like a fairly easy thing until I was told by the parks director, well, I'll do it, but you have to have 24/7 supervision. Well, we didn't have funding to have 24/7 supervision, so that fell through. But that's the big issue. That's the funding issue, is like somebody has to be there to mitigate potential problems, make sure people aren't building fires and cooking. It's supposed to be just for sleeping. Now, there is one of the homeless gentlemen who came to both of our first meetings that I've been in touch with, and he's actually subsequently gotten a job with one of the, with I think it's Diamond Parking, and is allowed to let homeless people. And I'm saying this very cautiously because I don't want him to get in trouble for this, because it's such a beautiful thing.
Well, it's nice.
Sleep overnight, no partying, no cooking, no showering. There's a bathroom across the street at the park, but just a place to sleep.
Yeah.
Just a place to sleep where you're not going to be bothered. And then they're out by 8 a.m. in the morning. And so I went to talk to him, and he's worried that, health department or someone's going to come in and shut him down. That's why I didn't put anything on Facebook about it. But it was such a beautiful thing to see that effort being made.
I know a guy next to the Salvation Army in Kihei had 28 sleeping boxes for people. And the only reason that broke down is because people get irresponsible, start the party, break it all up, upset the neighbors. But, there's so much could be done, and such has to be done.
And it's going to take all of us. It's going to take
All kinds of
the compassion
solutions.
of people who have been there or maybe even are there, and those of us who maybe have never been there, but we know people who have been there, and people who care about the community and want to see these people as part of our community.
I want to make a shout out on homelessness in different neighboring islands here. Molokai I have personal reason to have seen, is inadequate and needs some real help, real solutions. I didn't want to, burden Kiani specifically. I just want to mention it as you're getting things. Don't forget Molokai, please.
Well,
and I'm sure
and it is, and one person can only do so much, and that's why it really is up to. I think that's one of the values of having district council members. On Kauai, the system over there, they have 7 council members on Kauai. And they, in the primary, they don't have to be from any specific districts. In the primary, you just vote for 7 of them, and then the top 14 go to the general. You vote for 7, the top 7 get it, and there could be 3 from one town.
Sure.
But we need to actually start, quantifying where these issues are and what can be done about them. And so that's the value of having the representation, because I can focus on Kihei and what is and isn't going to be done on Kihei, but I can't do every other of the 8 communities that we have represented. And just because you're not chairing a committee doesn't mean you wash your hands of an issue.
Of course.
So all of these issues are all of our issues, and that's the daunting thing about being on the county council. When I was on the Board of Education, it was the school system, and it was education. It was all the way, K through 12, but we also interacted with the UH Board of Regents, but it was education. And when you get on the county council, it's water, and it's infrastructure, and it's affordable housing, and it's ocean pollution. We're losing our reefs. I mean, they're just the issues are.
And
endless.
you are generally, you're very aware of these things. Some of these people coming on council appear to, not now, have appeared to just not know, sort of Trump-like creatures.
Right, and I think over the years,
now? You feel we have
I do feel like we have a council of people who understand the issues. We don't all know all the solutions for all the issues, but I think we know enough people in the community. I always say, you don't, if you're mayor, if you're a council member, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to know everything about every issue, but you have to know who the people are to listen to and to bring into the conversation, who are the experts. And I think that's one of the thing about the new council coming in, is I think there's so much hands-on that's been done with these folks in the community that we know who the experts are. Who, I've had people proposing a tiered property tax system, and these are tax attorneys who have worked on this in other areas. So things that, I may not know how to do that. I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, but I sure do know a lot of really good accountants and attorneys who are willing to help make this a better county. I think that's bringing that collective intelligence is what's really needed.
I don't want to skip these questions on the corporate council thing, just because I know they're, we're talking about good things, and I don't hear anything but good things in what we're talking, and things positive. But the concerns when Sam keeps bringing up about the corporate council and issues and how it's going to affect, are you going to find having David Ratz, what's that going to do for you guys? And how are you going to use that? Is it somehow additional to corporate council's work, or what are you?
Well, I'm hoping that, just in general, we'll be able to, we're going to create a process for when you would, right, because nothing's been done on it for 2 years. But, for instance, if I put in an ordinance, and I hand that off to, I write it with Office of Council Services, it has to be reviewed by Corp Counsel for legalities.
If someone comes to you,
let me finish this. So it has to be, and if it takes too long and I'm not getting it back in a week, I would like to be able to go to our legal counsel and say, can you review it? If I get a review back that says, this one line we think is unconstitutional, I would like to be able to go to our our counsel, our legal counsel and OCS and say, do you agree with that? And if they say no, this is perfectly constitutional, and then it would be my decision of which opinion to use. So that's the flexibility that the council needs.
Well, you said you had a lot of attorneys in the group there. You mean in corporate?
No, I'm just saying. Oh, we have very good
how is David
attorneys.
Unique? That's what I'm.
Well, Dave is
asking.
the supervising attorney, so he supervises the attorneys in the Office of Counsel Services.
I see. So it's more than an individual; it's a team of attorneys.
Right. And
okay.
I know a lot of attorneys on the island that I talk to regularly as well. So I'm not working in a vacuum.
I got you. I'm just wondering because sometimes it gets to be issues of why is this one defending, and you're on different sides of issues, and you're all in the same government. How is it giving you what you need? So you have a strong system of help that's built right into your
right. And we've been working for the last 6 or 8 months with some 4 to 5 openings, right. And I've been working really hard with our Director of Office of Counsel Services to fill those openings so that we're starting this term with a full slate of assistance, of support from that office.
We have about a minute left. We could talk. I can see that hopefully we'll have you back and anyone and everyone that's on council and all services. We hope to be an open door to a voice. We're, at the Voice of Maui here. But me, I want to be able to leave an open door to talk about issues without a stick. No matter what they are, make it a better place,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if I can just close by saying, please. I am very open to meeting with people in the community, and I've been really good about that, except for the few people that have come into my office shouting at my staff. But I think it needs to be a very civil and open discussion whenever you talk with the community. But I do want to. One of the things I wanted to say on this program is I don't.
Seconds.
Okay, I don't legislate on Facebook, so I might put information on there sometimes, and I might respond every once in a while to somebody else's Facebook page. But I'm not intending to get into deep conversations there. So if folks want to talk to me about an issue and are willing to come in and have a civil discussion, call my office. I'm there for you.
Kelly King, our wonderful guest, Chairman of the County Council here on Maui. I'm Jason Schwartz. We hope to see you again. Check us out on Facebook and our webpage and see this again. We love you. Aloha.
Aloha.